Hey guys, welcome back. We're M.I.Diverse, and we're the talk show, podcast, whatever you want to call it, where we're trying to stay on subject. Sometimes it's hard, and today's a little bit of a freebie today, but it's not entirely a freebie because we've talked about it, at least in the background. This week, this week we are talking about autistic creatives, and that creatives is a broad word. That's actors, that's musicians, that's authors, directors, all the types of people. Obviously there's some famous autistic people. I'm just going to bring this up. We're not going to mention by name, but there's some famous autistic people that aren't really good people, and the being autistic doesn't absolve you from being a bad person. Well, I just want to get that out of the way. But before I really start talking about that, please like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Please help us. Uh, uh, Help us get our voices out there. It is Autism Awareness Month. You are very aware of us, for those of you listening, and we're going to make you more aware of us. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the soothing sounds of 88 Figures, Edward, as we talk about autistic creatives. So who wants to start? Sorry, that was a all right.
I would like to shout out my two favorite autistic creative people.
Go ahead.
Danny Bowman from the Love on the Spectrum show. She's amazing because she created her own little animation studio, which is so great. And the author of the book that I got this past Christmas, uh, Becoming an Artist,
Mm-hmm.
Scott Christian. Oh gosh, I forgot his name is not in my head right now. I'm sure it'll come up soon. But anyways, I did my two creative shout outs. What about you, Jenna?
Well, the only one that instantly came to my mind is Jorge Gutierrez,
Oh
who
yeah. Well,
directed Book of Life.
Jorge Gutierrez. I especially I follow him on Twitter because I'm not calling it the app, but whatever he wants to call the owner wants to call it. But I really think, and kind of the core of the conversation is what I think. There's sometimes that autistic. I want to also talk about what autistic creators bring into the conversation, because Jorge Gutierrez is very influential when it comes to some of his work. At least for me, you know, Book of Life is obviously one of them. I grew up with El Tigre, Adventures of Manny Rivera. There's a lot of you know his design aspects, what he kind of brings into that art form, which you know I
It
don't know the
helps it
go ahead.
helps him stand out.
Yeah.
I just remembered the name. It's Scott Christian Sava.
Oh.
Yeah. Shout out to him. So
I think what at least from what I will say, and maybe I'm just kind of talking out of my butt here, is that with certain autistic creatives, is with a lot of people on the spectrum, sometimes they hyperfixate, and you can kind of tell when, yes, we kind of go off subject, but when something's a hyperfixation, you can kind of see in their work. So I wouldn't even just say because, oh, Jorge Gutierrez, he's Mexican, so a lot of his work is Mexican, but there's also just a lot of his detail, a lot of like the just his design work feel, feels very, how do I say this?
There's a
So
lot of attention to detail,
yeah, yes,
little details.
attention to detail, because like you look at like movies or work like for El Tigre, there's a lot of the costume design. Um, at least I would believe for when he was making the show as well. Well, obviously, if you actually look at some of his like drawings, well, I wouldn't say just drawings, but a lot of his artwork, and then look at El Tigre for one, but Book of Life, a lot of the design aspects of his work usually stays true to form, so to speak. And I would like to think, and maybe I'm just being dumb, I might just be misreading it, but I would like to think that he tries to keep his foot down to try to make sure that the designs at least stay pretty close to his original sketches and such, if that makes sense.
I
So,
will say that definitely an eye for detail is definitely something you can definitely
mm-hmm.
see within the um in the autistic creative space, realizing what details are needed, realizing what details you want to add to something such as a character design is definitely not just a design of a character, but like the design of like where does the character live,
Yes,
you
where the
know,
setting is.
this, yeah, the setting and all of that. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, especially in movies like Book of Life, or I'm sorry, those are the two examples that I'm bringing up, but I feel like a movie example and a show example are two very good examples of the setting that the characters are in actually feels like where they live, rather than just some. I'm making a joke here, so sorry about that. Some gringo white guy like sitting, putting the brown filter over or the camera or whatever. There you feel like you are actually in the setting, and it's not just, oh, they filmed it in a back lot or they filmed it off in the desert. Like they actually the move obviously they're both animated, but obviously we've all seen some of these movies where they depict like different parts of the country or different parts of the world where it's just like, oh, it's just a filter over top up of like regular stuff. Obviously, we're getting a little bit better with that, but I'd like to think especially with Jorge's work, his attention to detail, and I would say, you know, especially if you follow him on Twitter, he does like to critique Hollywood with a lot of like their bull crap, and I think he does really enjoy the art of creating and filmmaking. At least, that's what I would think.
And I think
So,
that's definitely something that it's very now shown and it's very lost now within the world of movies today is
mhm.
movies today are not being seen as an art form.
No,
They're being seen as a
Yeah.
cash grab.
I
Yeah.
mean,
And
Or they're more
yeah,
so seen as like utilitarian.
yes. Actually, it's very timely because it literally just happened this week, I believe. Disney laid off like a couple thousand people or more. Like, yeah, no, they wanted to save a couple bucks, and it's just like you can kind of see, what they care more about is not the art in the films or the art, the work that goes into the films. They just see product, what's coming out, and we want to show it off. And apparently they're moving over to what's the word I'm thinking of. Basically, they're moving over to freelance work for a lot of stuff, so it's like unionized, I believe. So, I mean, obviously, you can kind of see where that might lead. Um, but
I'm just
I
thinking of, sorry, I'm just thinking about because granted, Disney has kind of been in this hole before with the quote unquote dark dark age of Disney, like when like before Roger Rabbit happened.
Mhm.
It's like they've been in this rut before, and I'm just sitting here like, how are they gonna get out of this one? It's like they're just digging their hole deeper at this point.
I mean, they already sold their soul to the robotic devil.
Although,
At
but
this
then they
point,
backed out of it. But then they backed out of it when
they didn't
everybody.
entirely back out of it. Apparently, they want to look into other outlets. But I would at least hope that they try not to completely get rid of the artist aspect of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
but considering how this is a major studio that is more focused on chasing trends and what tech people are doing,
yeah,
who knows?
Yeah.
I would before we actually get back on subject because I wanted to bring up a couple people. Um, I I definitely agree, and it's very dumb that they're just like really chasing trends in like the big tech. But I do still appreciate how some Imagineers are still trying to up, you know, stuff in real life in the parks, even though obviously the studio and the big wigs behind the studio probably couldn't give less of a crap and just want to see the numbers. So, but
This is what we mean by how sometimes we just go in different directions, man. When
yeah,
we hyperfixate.
yes, yes, it's all related in the end in that kind of sense. But so at least a couple of I would say two to three um big people in the film industry. Sorry, I'm getting blown out. The page that I'm looking at right now is very white, so I'm looking very pasty right now. Obviously, Beetlejuice, not Beetlejuice. I'm thinking of his work, not the actual guy. Tim Burton. Tim Burton is really a big, like influential member of the autistic community. Dan Aykroyd and Sir Anthony Hopkins. I have to be respectful. It is Sir Anthony Hopkins, not just Anthony Hopkins. I also like to think because when you look at Tim Burton's work, much like Jorge Gutierrez's work, is like Tim Burton's attention to detail on certain things is with Tim Burton, a lot of his stuff is very macabre. It's macabre. I think macabre might be the
Yeah,
right
like and
word.
also very like macabre whimsy. It's like it's
Yeah.
just different looking.
Yes.
Something that you
And
don't see every day.
yes.
Just an
And
interesting aesthetic, like the way that
yes.
his aesthetic is of like character design. Like they're super like the way that he animates in his
His
not
works.
just his animated movies, but his live action movies.
Mm-hmm.
The way that he kind of reflects the aesthetics
Yes.
of his his stop motion animation details and his live action.
Yes, I would because I was gonna say, it's that German film making technique. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Hey, but it's a very gothic style, very old gothic style. You
Hmm.
see it in the old Batman movies, all this gothic noir type stuff. Obviously, Tim Burton had to do a little like still had to work with the studio, so not his vision wasn't all entirely, you know, given life at first. I actually believe he did like one of the second movies, and his aesthetic is still really in there. Let me just let's talk about for a second while I do like a minor bit of research real quick. Well, I guess we'll still like talk about it. Is you look at I guess there's already a couple off the top of the head. Batman was a big one. Beetlejuice is obviously a very well known the Tim Burton movie. The Alice in Wonderland remakes, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Sweeney Todd, you know, you see a lot of. You could almost like take the way he casts some of these people that he works with, and if you just, I can't talk. I'm not trying to be very eloquent. I'm just trying to find the right word.
I think what you mean to say is probably like how um how the actors look almost like Tim Burton's aesthetic for
Yes,
characters.
yes.
Like they almost look like the deep
Oh,
cheekbones, like 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 the the facial look of the actors that he's trying to add to his creative aesthetic.
yes, 100%.
Yeah.
It's the especially when you look at the Sweeney Todd movies. It's his
Or like
aesthetics.
Edward
Edward
Scissorhands.
Scissors. Edward Scissorhands is definitely like one of those like character designs that I know the original character design wasn't like exactly to the final suit, but the way that he had made sure Johnny Depp kind of stayed like obviously he looks like a Tim Burton sketch brought to life. And I think that's like with a lot of Tim Burton's aesthetics. You know, kind of going back to Beetlejuice is, you know, I think he tried to very much stay true to form with a lot of the prop designs or anytime like a character or like form themselves differently. Obviously, look at the Beetlejuice snake or Alec Baldwin and his whole like chicken head thing. That is 100% like Tim Burton. And crap right there. It's I don't know how else to say that part. Same thing goes for any of actually. If you don't mind me going the back to a Batman movie, I definitely like to think with Batman Forever, there is that little bit of there's a little bit of Burtonisms, at least in the Two-Face design, so to speak. I feel like with the Joker design, they had him hold back. But I think like once you actually get to Batman Forever, that movie is very much a Burton movie, so to speak, with aesthetics. It's still very macabre. Has all of these different. It's dark, but it also has flashy color. So everything's like how everything's twisted. Sorry, I'm talking up because it's not just about the directors. I'm not just talking about the directors. I'm also talking about the writers and actors. Because where would I be without Dan Aykroyd's Ghostbusters movie or Dan Aykroyd's work? I love Dan Aykroyd's work, and much like with Tim Burton, some of his work is very macabre, and I think it kind of goes to how Dan Aykroyd brings possibly some autistic comedians. There's obviously some autistic comedians. They sound like just Dan Aykroyd, but hold on, gas.
Yeah, it's okay. Um, Another person I like is the director of the Shazam movies. I forgot what his name was, though. I might have to look at what his name is, but I know that he's his work is pretty great. So
David Sandberg.
yeah, David Sandberg. Yeah, he's great. I think his work is pretty phenomenal, I'd say.
And it's actually really interesting because at least the first Shazam movie is different than the rest of like the DC movies that were coming out around that time.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of I just feel like that's but also it's kind of weird because then you contrast that with depictions of Superman and Batman that just feel completely off from what
I
they
feel
actually
like
were.
and I'll say this is what Sandberg brought for at least the first Shazam. I still haven't watched the second Shazam, and I don't think I'm going to watch the second Shazam. Is that he brought that whimsy of, I don't want to say just the Silver Age. He brought the whimsy back a little bit of the Golden Age with the first Shazam. And I might be paraphrasing you, Jenna, but I definitely kind of agree where, like, the Shazam that's in this movie, or was in that movie, but I don't want to up the actor because of certain things. But the Shazam in that movie doesn't feel like he belongs in the universe that he's supposed to be in. That makes sense.
And that's mostly because DC has no idea what the frick they want. Has no idea what they're doing.
At least they didn't. At least it kind of seems now they're kind of keeping, like, they're keeping wheels on the ground, so to speak. They're keeping things on a track. Things are actually feel like they're all part of, like, one, like, large world. Even though, like, some of the stuff might be Elseworld work, which Elseworlds are just, like, different realities and stuff. I believe Clayface, the upcoming movie Clayface, actually it is our DCU version of Clayface, but they are letting the creators and actors, make this like a mature film, but still is canon to the DC universe. But sorry, a little bit of a digression. This is about the DC
Sorry, we're
universe.
having a little bit of an autism moment. Can you
Yeah,
tell?
you can tell. I like to think when it comes to directors, when they have a vision for exactly what they want for the movie, they'll try to get it. And I might be wrong. I might be paraphrasing, but I'm pretty sure Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd, when they made Ghostbusters back in the 80s, they want that's the vision they wanted for the movie. Obviously, they had to do some, can't think of the word. They had to give up some stuff. But I think just the thought processes and just all the jokes, all the humor that Dan Aykroyd, I believe, also with him being on the spectrum and such, is really kind of what made Ghostbusters work. There's nothing that's, like, inherently, like, especially the 80s. The 80s were a time, were very sorry, I'm thinking of the right word. We talked about this last week, where not last week, but when we're talking about comedians and stuff, where some people don't know the difference between, hey, let's laugh at these people because I don't like these people, or, there's some just absurd stuff, is gags. There's all one big thing. I think this was in the first one. It might be wrong. Visual gags in Ghostbusters are always really fun. There's the librarian scene that, the librarian ghost that turns into the big scary monster ghost. Um, Getting a little bit PG-13. I can't remember. There was, like, the Victorian ghost with the zipper bit. I think that's the first one. Obviously, the jokes can get a little bit racy. Not all autistic people are mentally children. But
Yeah,
I would like to think what.
I think some of it is also just because we were just grown up in a very specific environment, and that's kind of all we've ever really known at
Yeah,
that like era.
yeah. But I still like to think with what he brings into comedy, with his view of comedy, and I'm going to be making this a stepping stone to the next part of it, is for not just directors or writers and such, but the actors, with with going back to attention to detail. I'm going to be honest. Dan Aykroyd's funny, but Sir Anthony Hopkins, the man, is a hell of an actor. I think, like, if you know how to act, and the type of work that you're going into, the man is well known for Silence of the Lambs. I think it's to be said, some of these actors, when they research some of these characters, they bring in their whole selves into the work. There's always, and this is jumping off because this is Sir Anthony Hopkins' work, and was a major character in the MCU for a while. When he played Odin, he wasn't just playing like big superhero guy. He was playing this, like, it was very Shakespeare. And I think, a man of his, not just of his caliber, but I would like to believe that he brought, like, keeping himself in that zone. He's like trained Shakespeare, like all that type of theater stuff. He brought himself into that because he's learned and hyperfixated on acting like that. You're not just playing a character. You want to make this character believable as the person and how they're writing the character and such. I might be talking out of my ass here. We are well past the minute mark, so I'll just start letting the stuff slide. So,
Well, I definitely agree that and that Sir Anthony Hopkins is very talented. He's very talented, and I really think that putting in not only just the work, but the research in order to do the work so well and so successfully is definitely a great step towards knowing what does the director want, or having an idea for the feel of what the director wants.
or
Yeah.
sometimes the actors either, I'll say this because I know not everybody is fallible to a certain extent. Some actors just come to take the paycheck. I mean, let's
Yeah.
agree. Transformers: The Last Knight was not one of his best work. I think everybody just remembers his character dying, getting blown up. But I would like to think. I always think of the scene. I believe it was in Thor when Loki is talking to Odin, and Odin just, I can't remember. There's a term there was a specific term for it when Odin is basically telling Loki to heal, and that's very much a Shakespearean type thing, to kind of like let your voice boom and kind of like command somebody, and that was just very much, I think, like bringing in your experience and like how much you love that art form. I believe, I would believe that the man has that kind of love through hyperfixation, and that might be wrong. That might be wrong. But when you love something, like some people do on the spectrum, sometimes you love it a little bit too much.
Sometimes we just don't know when to stop. It's like, oh no, we're still going.
Oh no, really? I mean, yeah. So again, sorry. I kind of went on tangents about this. This is a very tangential episode, but
Since we are talking about autistic creatives, out of the three of us, do we have any like suggestions or tips, or maybe the idea of what kind of routine we have when creating our own things.
Well, I have some tips. One of them, and actually goes back to hyperfixating on research and our expertise and all that, doing research, is that when you're researching certain information for a story, like with a character design or world building, I'd say take things one step at a time and focus on those elements that are actually important to you at the moment, so that you don't get so overwhelmed by the researching aspect and not knowing what exactly to look for. Like, for example, you could be at a museum or something, but since you have no idea exactly what to look for, you just end up taking pictures of everything. It's like
Yeah.
you don't really want to do that. It's like you want to focus on, okay, I am going to look for this. I am going to scour through this section, see what I can find, and take stuff I like and leave the rest.
Basically, like creating like a, if you're trying to come up with something, it's kind of like creating an inspirational board or
Mood
a
board, like,
yeah, a mood
Yes.
board, a Pinterest page, kind of like that.
I
yes,
like
something like that.
I like to think for when it comes to researching is obviously I think the the right way to say this is there's this just innate autistic trait, and I might be wrong, is a lot of autistic people just want to make sure that everything is correct when it comes to when they are making something or when they say something. So when I create something when it comes to my photography, or say, when I am doing what I would have done, skits or such, of course, when I'm just like shooting it, making something out of my ass, something might just kind of slip out or whatever. God, that was a double entendre if I ever heard one. Uh, when I am making photography specifically, when I want the character to feel like the character, or I want the specific camera angles and shot to feel like it came out of the work, it's kind of, I'm looking over the work. I want to know how it's lit. I want to like learn the right way to how the body contorts, how the body moves and such. I think every time I try to do anything with poses, and maybe it's just, I don't know if that's just a regular thing, it might be the autism in me, is I love to study a lot of different bits of anatomy to make sure, like, if I'm posing something for, or if I'm, when I'm taking photos, just in general, is that, does this look real? Does this conform to how the body moves? At least when I will get deep into a thing. So I think
But
I just do
I
a lot
was,
of research. No,
but I will also say, and I've been reminded by my parents a lot, is don't, like, it's something like don't make perfection the enemy of, like, just don't get so caught up in perfection. It's like
yeah,
you want it to be like, just do the best that you can with, like, if you think in your gut that it probably looks fine, then maybe it probably looks fine.
yes, and I think that when it comes to my non-photography art, that's where a lot of my digital art or traditional art, kind of falls, is I want it to look like how it is in my head. And if I don't get the first, like, pen stroke down right, I'm just gonna be like, I don't know what to do. And I get frustrated. and
But
it
yeah.
truly is the enemy of work, or art, for like that type of sense, because you want it to look perfect, and sometimes an autistic person might get burnt out if it's not to their standard or thing. God forbid we might have high standards when it comes to like some of that type of work.
Yeah. But sometimes with those sorts of things, there's nothing wrong with being a little loose on what might be in your head and just just draw. I wouldn't say draw at the edge of your seat, but just you can be flexible
Yeah, let it
with it.
flow. Let
Gotta let
flow,
it flow.
essentially.
Just let it come out naturally.
Yeah, because
Y-
yeah. Go ahead, Jen. Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to kind of go back to what you were when you were said about research, Jenna. That's why, and also making sure, and also as you said, Dryw, we tend to want to make sure, are we doing the right thing? Are we doing things the right way?
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Like
yeah.
for me, it was like when I was trying to start doing comics, it was like, what kind of, or even doing manga, what kind of paper do I need? What kind of ink do I need? Do I
Yeah.
need to have, these different things?
And and
Yeah.
actually, this is something I've been actually experiencing in terms of the methods of getting your work published and how to make like just what you were saying, like do I need to do a specific way?
Mhm.
I'm actually experiencing this myself personally at the moment. Uh, there's this prevailing notion of, I mean, like you say, that it feels like you have to do things a certain way or else it's wrong. And it's like, sure, of course you want to make it good and high quality. However, I feel like comfort levels really do need to be taken into consideration when deciding on the how part of the publication. Like, for example, whether you want to publish it online or in person, or even something like the method in which of you mass produce something, like going to a different printing shop or
Or a
whatever.
webcomic.
It's like, of course you want to step out of your comfort zone, like stepping out of your comfort zone as much as you're able to. But some people legitimately have fears and worries that to many neurotypical people, it looks illogical or you're doing the wrong way. But to us
Mhm.
neurodivergent people, it's almost bordering on having a panic attack. And I know that sounds very exaggerated, but sometimes it is. And it's just like I just hate the notion of doing things a specific way, because then it's usually followed up by the but that's how it is now and you just have to lay over and accept it attitude. And that really doesn't help a lot, because there's so many methods that you can use to publish and produce your work, many of which I think most don't even consider. Like, think about the creatives, the artists, movie directors, actors, etc., that were able to be successful prior to the internet. So, so my advice to creators is one of my advice to creators is use whatever is already available around you and you trust very well. Like, if you have to dig up crap in your house just to find like art equipment or whatever, then it's like, go do that. I mean, hey, that'll probably save you a lot of money or something. It's like, if there's another way of doing the same thing, getting the same result, and it helps manage your pre-existing anxieties, then go for it.
Mm-hmm.
You might be able to hone in on a niche that helps you become successful.
Yeah.
And all I'm saying is, it doesn't entirely matter what you use to make your work or how it's published, as long as it's good and high quality and professional and you are being courteous and respectful. That's all we're asking.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, I would like to think that comfort level really does a lot. lot when it comes to how an autistic, creative, like just creates in general. If they are not comfortable, I don't think the work is going to suffer because of it.
Yeah.
But if they're in a zone, or I mean, obviously it kind of isn't always, how would I say this? There's that little bit of self-righteousness, not to be negative, but like they want it to be right, or they want it to look right, that it could be you might accidentally end up fighting with the person you're working with behind the scenes, or your publisher or something like that, because you want it to be how you envision it. And sometimes that hurts the product, or it hurts, behind the scenes, and the work might take longer to get out. I might be wrong there, but like, I've definitely had times when I've been behind the scenes, behind the camera and such, or even in front of the camera when acting, is, well, how would this work? How does this, you know what I mean? I think I've told you guys before, when I was doing, but before COVID shut everything down for a bit, I was doing my finals for one of my cinematography classes, and we kind of got into a big fight over we were getting into a fight over physics, on how somebody could just gingerly throw a piece of pizza crust across a room. So I was being a real stickler for attention to detail. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it
And
can't
it's
hurt
like,
production. It can't hurt production.
yes, and granted, some of the people that say that you have to do things a specific way, it's like they're not, most of the time, they're not trying to be mean. They're actually trying to help you. It's just how it's like, it's just hard to explain to people our specific anxieties about, like, say, creating an account for social media, or going to a printing shop that is run by people that you don't know, and you don't
Oh
even know
yeah,
what they're going to do with it. It's like it's hard to explain to them, like we're not being stubborn. I mean, granted, we kind of are
it
stubborn,
is.
but
It,
I
it
I
is
mean, like,
stubbornness.
yes, part of it is stubbornness, but also it's trying to keep our sanity.
Yeah.
It's like trying to manage our anxieties. It's like we can do the work. We can do the work, and we can make it look good. It's just, if there's already another option to do it within a comfort level that helps manage your anxieties, it's like, let me do that, and I probably make what you want.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. One of the things, as we've been talking, one of the things I would definitely want to suggest to anyone for, like, regarding the any tips for any of autistic creatives is definitely look into a way of creating a, like, trying to think of the word, but basically making a plan for your projects. That way, and when you are creating a plan for your projects, don't make it feel so overwhelming. What you could do is do flashcards for creativity. Like, maybe one day, I mean, I found a process I really liked. I think her YouTube is called Natto Soup. She makes these beautiful, really cute and beautiful watercolor comics. And she actually had a video of how she makes her comics. And I really liked the process. And I was like, I like the process because it's like one day she does rough sketch. Next day she does pencil. Next day she does inking. Next day she does coloring. Next day she does writing in the speech bubbles. I don't or even like I don't remember all of it, but I did like the process so much that I even put that towards my creating of like, okay, this sounds like a system that I could handle. So definitely try something like that. And also, don't throw away the idea of the index cards or the flashcards of what you're gonna do for your creative project because that always
And when I
helps.
say that, and when I say all the stuff that I do, I'm not saying disregard the rules. It's like, no, the
Right.
rules are there for a reason. Of
Oh
course.
yeah.
Like follow the standards of what makes art, what makes writing good. It's just
Hmm.
if there's a specific if there's a way to get to that same high quality work, but it's done in a way that you are comfortable with, it's like do that.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
and sometimes, unfortunately, and it happens to me, is when you're so used to doing the work that it comes naturally to you when people ask you how do you do so and so work? You don't know how to put it to word. Is because it comes so naturally to you, you have to be in a flow state to actually do it. Like I could probably tell you like how I do all my photography stuff uh like when I'm in a flow state, when I'm like physically showing you how to do it, we're not like talking to you, like I literally talking to somebody, then I just start like drawing a blank. And or when it comes to at my actual work, when it comes to, talking about product some of our products, when I'm actually kind of in the state or in the right state of mind, I could probably tell you exactly what you need. But when I'm kind of caught off guard, it's just it all disappears. And I think that might be an executive dysfunction type situation in that, at least for me, becomes a problem. But
Or actually, when you brought up the notion of someone asking you, how did you do that? I immediately thought of like being interviewed on like, how did you do this sort of thing? It's like, I made it. That's just
yeah,
like,
I mean,
sometimes it's like,
literally,
I don't know.
That's just some.
it just kind of comes into somebody asks you, well, how do you when you take these photos or when you do like this thing, like what's your process or what's your like what goes through your head? It's like, I really don't know. I just kind of
I
get in a
mean,
flow
sometimes,
state. I want it to look nice.
like, sometimes maybe say, like, make just saying simple answers like,
Yeah,
oh, sometimes it comes to me naturally, sometimes it comes to me like I feel like I want to do it. It's like just give simple answers.
yeah. I think it's my unintention to kind of be a little bit more well spoken and not just like try to like drop it and like make it a lot. It's hard. I don't know why. I always try to be a lot more well spoken than I probably really need to be. I guess, and then you can kind of see I'm getting stuck in my own words because it's like my mouth sometimes is moving faster than my brain is processing the words. And when you're getting interviewed, when you're getting asked questions, that then it's even worse because you're trying to think of the exact words and you'll lose yourself. You lose
But
yourself.
sometimes you really don't need to use fancy words. Just
Yeah.
keep it short and sweet and simple.
Mhm.
And speaking about keeping things nice, sweet, and simple, do we want to shout out any of our personal projects that we've been working on, or things we've
Stu
already completed and done?
Oh, well, I guess I can start. Um, for those who don't know, currently behind the scenes, when I'm not doing this, I am producing a show called Tink Talk. It's going to be a children's show. Oh, we are still in the middle of production, getting everything ready. We are trying to make sure it's a weekly show that we can get out, or at least like get it out often with three autistic animators, and storytellers. I want to not just promote my production work, I want to promote them because they deserve the promotions too. So, at least that's what
So, one of the things I last year I published a coloring book called the Beast Core's Coloring Book. It's on the Bezos website, unfortunately, but that's all I kind of have.
Bezos Mart.
The Bezos mark. But I also have not one but two different art installations. One at a used bookstore, and then the other is at a church.
Sometimes you gotta just like find the right place to put it, and sometimes it might not be to what you're wanting to, but you gotta get it out there somehow.
Yeah, you just gotta, like I said, you gotta get it out with the resources you currently have available because sometimes you are a broke ass artist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I understand that. I would really like to promote my obviously my artwork. I'm gonna show on the screen my business card and the back of my
Hmm.
and
John, we can't
this.
hear you.
He cut out a bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is the back of my card.
Scan the QR code, guys.
If anything, send me a scan of that QR code, or send me a digital file. I'll put it up on the screen.
I think you made it. Drew, I think you made it.
Oh, that's the TinkTank one. Oh,
No,
okay.
it's not the TinkTank one. It's mine.
Oh,
You made
no.
mine. I asked you about making mine, and then
Oh,
you made it, and then
I
you
don't
sent
think
it to me, and then I
um,
put it on my business card.
I don't think it did. Oh,
But
maybe.
I'll still send it to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, on my card I have my Instagram, basically mostly. I mean, it's up to my link tree. You know, my link. I just have a link tree page that has my Redbubble. Redbubble is probably the easiest way to get any of my prints. So if
Mm-hmm.
anybody's interested in my artwork, in getting any prints of my work, or if you want it on like a button or a mug or a shirt, or I like the journals. No, I'm not making any playing any favorites on products that I have on my work on my page, but let's just say I really like the journals. So that's all I'm going to be promoting today.
All right.
For
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. No, we're M.I.Diverse. We try to stay in subject. It's hard sometimes because everything's just kind of flowing through our heads. So please like, comment, subscribe, share, all that fun jazz. I'm going to say at the beginning and the end of the video. And hey, I actually remembered to do both this week. So please do all that fun stuff. Thank you guys for watching. I think we might talk about pets next week. I don't know if we're all agreed to that, but I think we're going to be talking about pets next week. So look forward to that. So, again, thank you guys for watching. We will see you guys next week.